What you thought was the spirit serpent's revenge, just a flash flood. What you thought was an old woman's wail, only the helpless cry of the weak. Step into that greedy magistrate's point of view, and ask yourself whether what you snatched was an auspicious sign, or the fuse that would ignite hell. Look at Qiongdu City under your feet, and how, within 3 days, it turns into a 40-lie underworld of water. A mirror for the chalk-white faces of the drowned. And the old beggar woman you ground into the mud stands on the only islet, braced on her fish spear, the sole witness to this newborn. Death still expands. To climb the ranks, the Qiongdu magistrate tore from you the spirit serpent you had raised. You knelt in the mire and watched the little green-scaled snake dragged off in chains. 3 days later, the whole of Qiongdu collapsed into a 100-li great lake. You stand with your fish spear on the islet. At your feet lies a 40-li netherwater, the lake mirroring the sky and the dense, pale faces of the drowned behind you. Pellets of snow sting your face raw. Wind, like knives, drives through the cracks of the broken window. Curled on a heap of straw, the cold seeps into your bones. Hunger claws your guts until your vision goes black. The hearth is a cold iron coffin. The last pinch of ash blew away long ago. This life grinds a person down to the wick. Something half buried in snow at the ruined temple's threshold trips you no stone, hard yet with a give. Hands shaking, you sweep the snow aside and uncover a fist-sized egg traced with strange blue veins. Icy to the touch, yet within it, a weak ember seems to glow. A faint, broken pulse seeps through the shell. On a compulsion, you tuck it into your breast, tight against your heart. That tiny thread of warmth becomes the only anchor in the dark. Snow falls 3 days and 3 nights. At dawn on the 4th, you wake to a faint rustle at your chest. Your lapel stirs, and out peeks a head no bigger than a fingertip, carved like green jade. A pair of gold, newborn eyes stare at you, timid and blank. Its body is sheathed in fine, mellow green scales, with 2 tiny coral-like nubs on its crown. With cracked, frozen fingers, you gingerly touch its cool scales. It nuzzles your fingertip and presses its little head to you. Something long frozen at your heart splits the tiniest seam. You name it, Qiongdu. It grows fast. In less than a month, it is as thick as a child's arm and coils round your shoulders for warmth. It's keen as a person. When you cough, it prowls, agitated. When you return with fish, it loops around you in delight. At night, it lies coiled by your straw pallet, breath long and even. A faint glow seems to drift beneath its scales. Stranger still, since it came no snake, bug, or rat, shows itself around the temple. Even the old leg wound that stabbed like ice on rainy days grows lighter. Combing your hair over the lake's leftover shards of ice, you startle to find a little life back in your withered face. Qiongdu coils at your feet, head lifted, its golden pupils catching the first light, tame as a house cat. That meager warmth couldn't stay hidden for long. You carry a basket of fresh fish to market, to trade for salt. As you squat down, a few pairs of black boots shove in front of you. You look up. Thugs from the county yamen. At their head, pockmarked Li, his triangular eyes slanting as he fixes on the fattest base in your basket. Old hag, nice fish. Offer it up to Registrar Wang, he says, reaching to grab. You instinctively shield the basket. Your shoulder dips at some point. Qiongdu has quietly eased out its head. Its cold, golden gaze locks on the filthy hand. Pockmarked Li jolts as if pricked by invisible needles, yelps, and snatches his hand back. "A snake! A big green snake!" he stammers, face draining, finger stabbing at your shoulder. His voice gone shrill. The crowd scatters with a whoosh, then edges back to gawk and point. "What's to fear?" just a long worm. Pockmarked Li blusters, fierce on the surface, hollow within. Yet his eyes stick to the two ever-clearer coral horns budding on Qiongdu's head, greed all but spilling out. Take this demon snake. We're reporting to the magistrate. News grows legs and outruns the wind. That very evening, the temple door is booted open. Qiongdu's magistrate, Wang Zhaode, stands there, wrapped in heavy sable, a well-kept white, plump face, set with two glittering little eyes, appraising a rare treasure. Behind him, wolfish constables. The torches make the ruin bright as day. Vermin. Pinching his nose, Wang Zhaode sweeps the place with a look of disgust, his gaze finally fastening, greedy, on Qiongdu, coiled at your feet, head up, hissing. Harboring a monster and disturbing the countryside men. Seize this demon snake. I will personally interrogate it to set the record straight. His voice is sharp, admitting no refusal. Constables close in with thick chains and nooses, grinning. Qiongdu suddenly arches. The scales at its neck lift, a low hiss rolling out. For the first time, a cold fire burns in those golden eyes. Sir, it isn't a monster. You drop to your knees in the freezing mud, withered hands thrown wide to shield Qiongdu. I found it. It has never harmed anyone. Please, have mercy. Your forehead bangs the frozen ground, smearing mud. Out of the way, old hag. A constable's boot slams into your shoulder. Pain knifes through you. You grunt and roll, the old leg screaming. Qiongdu screeches, springs like lightning, and sinks its teeth into the man's calf. A scream rips the night. The constable crashes down, writhing, his calf swelling black in an instant. Wang Zhaode staggers back, ashen. Outrageous nets! Chains! I don't care how! A heavy fishing net drops over Qiongdu, shrouding it. Forged iron chains coil next, biting deep into its jade like scales. It thrashes. Chains rattle. Cold scales scrape the ground, scoring bloody tracks. The golden eyes that once held the morning light now lock on you. Pinned under a constable's boot filled with panic, fury, and a grief with no bottom. It twists toward you, helpless, as the chains cinch ever tighter. Qiongdu! You rasp, struggling to rise, only to be ground back into the mud. Icy mud floods your mouth and nose as you watch it dragged away. Its scales rasping over the rough floor with a heart-splitting scrape. A winding, dark red trail bleeding behind, until it vanishes past the temple door into boundless dark in the brute's barked orders. Wang Zhaode spares you one last look, the way a man looks at a heap of trash. Keep an eye on the old beggar. Don't let her die. If the snake's hiding anything, she might be useful. He gathers his sable as if brushing off filth, and hurries into his heated sedan. The ruin falls still again. Only your ragged breathing and the echo of dragging chains toll through your skull. The dark red smear on the ground is a poker pulled from the fire, rammed straight into your heart. Rage, despair, a hate carved into bone burst like poison vines from the deepest part of you, winding tight until you can't breathe. All night you lean like dead wood against the frozen earthen wall, staring into a darkness too thick to thin. The last sorrow in Qiongdu's golden eyes, searing your soul like a brand. Hatred kept you on your feet. The next day, the city felt wrong. The sky hung like ink-soaked rags, heavy and low, not a breath of wind. The lake lay flat as a mirror, dead and still. Even the waterfowl were gone. The air turned thick enough to choke. Every breath was like swallowing glue. People grew jumpy, livestock restless. Dogs howled all night. Wang Zhaode's residence, though, blazed with lanterns. He sent invitations far and wide to feast the prefectural dignitaries and, at table, to present his treasure, to cut open the living spirit serpent for its gall, its blood, its snake pearl, and even those coral horns stepping stones for his promotion. The pipes and strings within, the clink of cups, made a ghastly counterpoint to the city's deathly hush. At noon on the third day, 2 constables dragged you into the Yaman's bare courtyard. Wang Zhaode, flushed and radiant in a brand new robe, was laughing and trading jokes with several superiors. In the yard's center stood a great iron cage. Qingtong was strapped to an iron frame with even thicker chains. Its scales had gone dull, broken in many places. Blood and flesh blurred beneath. Its head hung, breath all but gone, only the coral horns turning with a faint, ominous blue-green under the leaden sky. Wang Zhaode, brimming with pride, bowed to the officials. "My lords, behold the sentient demon serpent. Its blood grants long life, its gall clears the eyes, and the spirit horns atop its head are rarities beyond price. Today I shall offer this auspicious sign to..." He never finished. Qingtong, head long lowered, suddenly snapped it up. The once gentle golden eyes had become 2 blazing discs of molten red gold. An icy, savage will to destroy everything burst like a flood made solid. It locked on Wang Zhaode, then swept across every well-dressed, ruddy-cheeked guest present. "Monster, the serpent's gone mad!" someone screamed. The coral horns erupted with blinding azure light, no single bolt, but a storm of searing blue-white arcs. Like maddened snakes of lightning, they ripped the sagging leaden clouds apart. With a deafening crack, a colossal, bone-white thunderbolt, like the spear of an enraged god, drove straight down. It did not strike Qingtong, but the slab of blue stone before it. There was no explosion, only a tooth-rattling horror, as if the earth's buried bones were being forcibly wrenched. The ground vanished underfoot. Solid earth lost every hold. You dropped like a dead leaf caught in a gale. Ice-cold water swallowed you whole. The blow of it knocked your organs out of place. Brackish lake water flooded your nose and mouth. Chaos. Absolute chaos. Shattering roared on all sides, the crack of bricks and beams, the thunder of collapsing houses, the last ragged, hopeless screams of the dying, the bellow of water surging in, the noises fused into a world-ending din. Filthy currents spun broken timbers, shattered tiles, even human bodies. Smashing them together, you thrashed in the black, freezing water, choking, rolled and battered by a rip current too strong to resist. Each impact felt like bones splintering. The will to live made you kick for the surface. Your lungs were about to burst. In the turmoil, a faint blue glimmer flickered past your side. A gentle force buoyed you, nudging you in one direction. Time unraveled, maybe a heartbeat, maybe a lifetime until the current hurled you against something hard. Instinct clamped your hands on cold rock. It tore your palms raw, but the plunge finally stopped. Sprawled on the jagged stone, you hacked up mouthful after mouthful of briny water. Knifing cold air stabbed your lungs, yet proved you were still alive. You lifted your head. Before you stretched an unimaginable, dead-still sea. Water. Nothing but water. A limitless, dark green. Streets, houses, markets. The tall yamen. Everything you knew, gone. The surface was scarred with stray planks and debris. Scabs on this newborn body of water. Only a few hilltops, the highest ground, pierced the surface like enormous, silent tombstones, including the boulder you clung to. 40 li of Qiongdu, together with the thousands within its walls, had been wiped smooth before your eyes and pressed to the lake's freezing bottom. You stared, blank, at this watery prison. The broken leaden clouds above reflected on the surface until the edge of that reflection quietly grew white. A blurred, wavering pallor, like drifting weeds or like countless faces bloated and warped by water. A chill shot up your spine and locked your limbs to ice. Your heart pounded so hard it seemed ready to break your ribs. Stiffly, agonizingly slow, you turned your head. Right behind you, inches below the dark green surface, crowding innumerable faces. Men and women, old and young, clothed in every style. Residents of Qiongdu all pressed just beneath the water, floating without a sound. Their skin had soaked to corpse-white swellings. Their features buckled and misshapen, eye sockets hollow, mouths gaping in a soundless scream. Hair streamed like black weed in the sluggish flow. Some bodies were torn. Others held the last twisted pose of their dying struggle. They hung there, silent and still, filling the waters around the islet. Thousands of empty eyes seemed fixed on you. Terror clamped a hand around your throat. No sound came out. You forgot to breathe, forgot the cold, forgot the stabbing in your ruined leg. The world shrank to that pale grave beneath the water and its deathly gaze. You froze on the stone like a carved idol, facing the netherwater across a skin-thin surface, locked in hopeless stalemate. Time lost its shape, hours or a heartbeat. The lake remained lifeless. The white faces did not stir, as if set under a crystal lid. Then, from a crack in the rock beneath you, something flickered faintly. A pigeon egg-sized, smooth green jade bead. It lay among the gravel, breathing a soft, familiar glow, the color of Qiongdu scales. A point of gold turned slowly at its core, like a spark from eyes that had not gone out. Your hand shook as you reached. The instant your fingertip touched the bead, indescribable warmth climbed your arm, smoothing away the marrow deep cold and the terror in your bones. You clenched it in your fist. That warmth became the only strength keeping you alive in this dead land. The moment you closed your hand, the hush-bound water around you parted without a sound. Not a crashing surge, more like the tamest silk drawn aside by an unseen hand. A straight passage opened at your feet, leading down. On both sides, the dark green walls of water held, slick as mirrors, throwing back your terrified, twisted face. The passage ended in bottomless, lightless depths. Then a voiceless thought rang in your skull, cold, clear, and final, carrying Qiongdu's last, unquestionable resolve. "Ama, look, it's Qiongdu, it's still here." The thought pierces your numbness like an icy needle. You look down at the smooth, warm bead in your palm, then up at the waterway into the abyss. It has opened the path for you, bidding you to see clearly the netherwater it forged with its own hands, and all that the cataclysm buried beneath it. You brace yourself on the old fish spear, worn smooth with years. Your bad leg screams, but the warmth from the bead holds you up. You draw a deep breath, a near-numb resolve settling in, and, leaning on the spear, step by step you enter the parted passage. The water walls glide by on either side, close enough to touch, cold and hard, while the sense of falling stays weak, as if an invisible force were bearing you along. The light dims quickly from dark green to deep blue to near total blackness, leaving only the bead's blue-green glow, barely lighting a few paces ahead. On the slick water walls, your shadow looms hunched, tottering, spear in hand. Underfoot, no longer rock, but a thick carpet of silt and weed. Now and then your foot hits something hard, a broken eave tile, half a rotten beam, even a bronze pot twisted and half buried in mud. Silence, graveyard silence, no whisper of current, only your heavy breathing, the wet thud of the spear biting into muck, and your drumbeat heart magnified in the closed space, turning the quiet into terror. Suddenly, the blue glow washes over a scene up ahead. Not wreckage, but a crowd, or rather a frieze of human shapes. They're held in the instant the disaster struck. A fat merchant in silk reaches up with empty hands, his face locked forever by water and pressure into a mask of terror. His skin is bloated white, his mouth a black hole of despair. Beside him, a woman clutches an empty swaddling cloth, body curled to shield what was once inside. Farther off, several men dressed as constables wear snarling faces, frozen mid-swing with cudgels and chains, as if still carrying out the raid, only their bodies look hammered by something unseen, warped past anything human. These fixed statues stand in silence among silt and weed, packed tight and stretching into the dark. Hollow eyes seem to turn toward you, telling an endless, soundless tale of fear and spite. Your gut heaves. You clamp your lips until the taste of blood fills your mouth. The passage slopes on, opening into what was once a square, the Yamen forecourt. The sight in its center ices your blood in a breath. Wang Zhaode sits there in his brand-new robe, set on a grand armchair, carved with snarling beast heads, weed-tangled, sunk deep in the mud. His bloated body has puffed like a giant white bun. His hat is gone, thin hair drifting. His face is set in a grotesque contortion, not mere terror, but a jumble of ravenous greed, stunned disbelief, and the instant despair of being seized by death. His eyes bulge round, his mouth gapes, as if to roar or beg. Strangest of all, one hand reaches forward, fingers splayed as though, right before dying, he still tried to grab something unseen. And just past that grasp, scattered in the silt, lie a few dull, broken green scales and half a thick chain. Snapped, stained a dark red. Qingtong was here in the end. It made Wang Zhaode see, and it makes you see. The path of ruin ends at the abuser's frozen greed and fear. You stand before this statue of Wang Zhaode, leaning on your spear. Even the bead's warmth seems to cool a shade. Do you still hate? Look at this face, fixed in greed and terror. Look at the underwater grave that buried all Qiongdu. Look at the countless pallid faces. The silent accusations. Hasn't that fire that once ate your heart gone out? Now it's replaced by a deeper, vaster void and sorrow. 40 li of water, thousands of souls too dear a price. Qingtong's last thought. Amma, look wasn't only to show you revenge's end, but to show you revenge's cost. With this drowning judgment, it answered the theft of power and offered itself up wholly to the netherwater. Slowly you raise your head toward the far, dim water surface above. A gray mirror letting in daylight. That is where the living belong. Sun, air, dry land. Yet 40 lie of cold netherwater, an uncounted fixed dead stand between you and it. In the mud at your feet. That half-chain glints with a cold, ominous black-red under the bead's glow. You bend, your chilblained, calloused hands shaking, and pry it free. Finger by finger. The chain is ice-cold and heavy, stinking of the lake bed. Its snapped edge is sharp as a knife. The dark red on it has soaked to black. Was it Qingtong's blood, or Wang Zhaode's, or that of more innocence? You do not look again at Wang Zhaode's fat face, set in greed and fear, nor at the mute, pallid statues around you. You just clamp that half-chain in your fist and press it to your pounding chest, together with the smooth bead, cold iron, and warm jade. The last, only link between you and the little green snake carried off by the flood of ruin. You turn, leaning on the spear. The wood thuds dully in the dead water, striking silt layered with the dead's remains. Behind you, the corridor of smooth water walls that Qingtong opened seals without a sound. The ink-green walls knit shut, swallowing the horror of Wangzhou in the square's countless souls. Along with that chain's birthplace, the symbol of all, everything is swallowed again by endless dark. Ahead lies only deeper, heavier water. You start walking, not back toward the surface, but into the deeper, darker, unknown, stumbling forward. Light seeps through your knuckles from the bead, the only glow in this realm of gloom. It lights the jagged way. Toppled column bases, half-buried beast head carvings, a carriage down to its frame, the scattered cups and bowls from a restaurant's wreck. Every ruin was once a home, a shop, a slice of ordinary life. Now they're silent grave goods in a giant tomb. You pass the old South Market. A little girl in patched clothes stands frozen at the roadside, still clutching half a string of rotten candied haw. The half-formed smile on her face hasn't had time to fade. You pass Lee's forge, its fire long gone. The huge bellows lies half-buried. The smith's powerful body is pinned by a fallen beam, cords standing on his muscles, fixed in a final heave. Waterweed tendrils brush your face cold, slick, like a dead hand's touch. You only shuffle on, numb, the bead and chain biting your palm and your heart. One warm, one cold. You don't know how long you've walked when the ground begins a slight rise. The bead's light sketches a huge, slanted outline ahead of city wall. A section of Qiongdu's ancient wall, a dragon's severed spine, leans along a mountain of stone in the deep water. The mortar lines swarm with thick weed and stringy unknown growths, drifting faintly in the blue glow. The great gate is gone, leaving only a black maw like a monster's mouth. You reach it. Within is nothing but depthless, dark. The bead can light only a few feet past the threshold, enough to show shattered armor and rusted weapons scattered underfoot. Once a choke point that guarded the city, it is now a grim portal in the heart of the Netherwater. You stop at the mouth and look back one last time at the sunken grave 40 Li, of silent accusation, despair set like stone, everything drowned in the boundless ink green. The bead flickers, urging, or perhaps saying farewell. You hesitate no longer. Leaning on the spear, dragging your wounded leg, you hobble into the gate's darkness blacker than ink. The bead's glow wavers like a firefly, then thins and fades. Even the faint stir of current dies away. The drowned Qiongdu, its water palace, sinks into an eternal, boundless hush, while the countless, pallid faces still mirror the sky through the surface forever leaden gray.